Welcome to BCL Trash Talk, your weekly dose of trash and talk about the Basketball Champions League.
On today's show, we'll go over some of the news from the BCL. We'll have a debate on the MVP of October, and we'll get you fired up for the game of the week.
There were 8 games last week. Only 2 of those ended by double-digit margins. Igor will tell you what stood out the most.
For me, it's always the curse of the power rankings, because every time I put some team at the top of the list, they end up losing the very next game. And it was no difference this time around, because Pinar Karšiaka were the first team, the top ranked in the power rankings. And to make matters worse, Paxi Manresa weren't even in top 10. They were 11th, and the description said, you beat Karšiaka away from home, you're going to end up in top 3 next time around in the power rankings. And I don't know, it probably got them fired up, because they started the game really strong. Like, it was Sima Eliup, it was May Dunk, and it was Moneke layup. It was just points in the paint. And you had the Bako Eliups, and then it was just like a throwback to Michael Jordan and his number 23 trademark moves by Mr. Francisco, because he had the sideway dunks and he had the fadeaway. It was just Manresa all the way. And then 2 plays that stood out really in the end was May hitting the 3+1 when they were down 7 with 5 minutes to play. And finally, they have one of the clutchest guys in the league. It's Balton, and he knocked down a huge shot against Jerusalem, and he did it again now against Karšiaka, both times on the road. So Manresa really deserved to be in the top 3. But when you put it like at the power rankings curse, if we put them top 3 next time around, they'll lose the next game.
And I got to tell you, the last thing I want to touch base on this, the PAOK fans were phenomenal. You could hear them. I could hear them from across the globe. They were that great. But this could be a big turning point for PAOK. But we got other things we need to talk about.
Turning point sounds about right, because Dario Džerdža, my man, and his Fuel Ostend got a huge win on the road. They got a couple of massive 3-pointers late in the game to force overtime, and then to win it by Phil Booth. It was just amazing. And after the game, in the press conference, Dario Džerdža decided, basically it's kind of contradictory, because he decided not to talk about Dusan Đorđević, but by doing that, he was actually talking. It's probably just best to play the clip, right?
I don't think it's necessary to talk about the person who wins 10 titles in a row, 7 cups in this team, and who is MVP of the league, Belgian league, for a few times, and who is a professor doctor of basketball. I don't think it's necessary to talk about it. I don't think it's necessary to talk about it.
Not necessary.
Professor doctor of basketball.
Professor doctor of basketball. I don't know if it gets any better than being called a professor doctor of basketball. And it's just the connection between Džerdža and Đorđević. It's always so fun to see. So kudos to them.
Home court advantage in the Basketball Champions League. I'm going to talk about 2 teams, Igor, because there's 2 teams that really seem to take, advantage of having that home court advantage.
I think I know who you're talking about, but I'm curious to hear you say the name out loud.
Oh, don't do this to me. Please, Igor, don't. Come on, cut me some slack. I always get this name. Okay, I'll start with the easy one first.
Yeah.
MHP Riesen Ludwigsburg.
That's easy. That's a layup for you.
But for me, that's like a 3-point. Okay, I'm going for the real. This is like a slam dunk for me if I can get it. Arged, BM Stal, Ostrov, Viel, Kopolski.
I'm giving you, straight A's. Straight A's.
Oh, thank God. Havala.
It's out of the ballpark.
But let's talk about. Both those. Let's start with Ludwigsburg. Obviously, they're back in the Basketball Champions League. They're feeding off the crowd energy. They get fired up by the shot by Justin Simon. How do you make a shot like that when you're Justin Simon?
For me, it was just the way he reacted, like the shrug man, the emoji happened right on the floor there, and it just said it all. He's having a fine season. They're having a fine season, and when you're making shots like that, everything's going your way.
And obviously, you look at the hustle stats. I mean, 19 and 7 on the offensive rebounds, the points off the turnovers, the second chance points. I mean, that is exactly what the Ludwigsburg fans. I mean, I've sat with them. I sat with them at Medi Bayreuth back in 2018. There was like 200 of them, but they rock the gym when they win that game. But let's move on to the next team, and I'll try it one more time. Biemstal, Ostrev. Oh, sorry. Arged, Biemstal, Ostrov, Wielkopolski. I mean, you think about new arena, capacity crowd. Effectively, that was the end of Oren Amiel's run as the head coach of Yerushalayim.
That just speaks volumes on how good Igor Milicic is and how good his team is. And the fans in the arena, he told me about it because we're compatriots, we talk a lot. And he told me, he warned me, like, listen, man, these fans are as loud as Anvil's fans. And, you know, he wasn't wrong. It was just the way that the crowd reacted to everything. And just, I mean, it's amazing. I love seeing stories like that, like champions of Poland getting a chance to prove their worth internationally and doing it perfectly, basically. They're just another team similar to PAOK. They could have been 3-0. They could have been 2-1, but they ended up 1-2, and they're still alive. This is a beautiful group of basketball here.
Now, welcome to the BCL Trash Talk main event, where right now Igor Churkovic is going to talk about the reigning MVP of the month of October. And this player comes from MHP Riesen Ludwigsburg. Igor, why don't you let us know about Jonah Radoba? Did I say it right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, he's American, so probably Radable. And Biemstal Ostrov Wielkopolski. So let's worry about it. I mean, Jonah is amazing. I've read so much about him over the last couple of days and weeks. It's just like one of those movie-like stories, because he was a walk-on in college, basically barely got a chance to play for Northern Colorado, and his first assignment was like, I'm gonna play some defense, and he had to guard a former BCL guy too, because it was Jordan Davis who played there, the guy who played for Rasta Fechta and Baxi Manresa, I think, in the BCL, plays in Spain right now. And he said that, like, he learned so much just chasing him around, and he always took pride in playing defense. He was 3-time defensive player of the year in his conference. But the way that everybody talked about him, Coach Patrick said that he's just the hardest working guy and he deserves every single credit. Their team captain also said, like, he's super proud of him because this is his second season with Ludwigsburg. He's only 24. He's the kind of a guy who's constantly improving, and sky's the limit for him. I mean, for me, this is completely deserving because you cannot just watch his stats like and go, 16 points per game and 6 rebounds and 3 assists, 2 steals. Like, it's not that impressive, but Ludwigsburg were plus 60 with him on the floor over 3 games, plus 60 against teams like Sassari, like Prometei, like Tenerife. I mean, that's the most important stat, and that shows how much he contributes to his team. Like, they're right now arguably the best team, 3-0 in what we call the group of death, and he's the best player of the best team. So by that, I mean, I can see him winning MVP of October. You have any other candidates?
Galatasaray's Akun Pasel. This guy can play. This guy is just, if there's one part of his game that he could improve, he's not even bad at it. It's just maybe he could probably do it a little bit more. But if he did it even more, it's like, I think he'd be unstoppable. And that's shooting 3-pointers. But Akun Pasel is like, you put the ball in his hands, he gets to the basket. He's like the Terminator, you know? He's very agile. He's quick. He's got long arms. He just can play. But again, that's my perimeter player, my post player. I am going with Ivan Buva of Ritas Vilnius. This guy is magnificent because he's so physical, but he's not just a lump of muscle. He's another very skillful post player. You know, he's got a bit of that sort of Hakeem dream about him when he's in the low block. He's very mobile and he's got a very soft touch around the basket. And after watching him play, I'm looking forward to watching Croatia play at the upcoming FIBA World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, I mean, he is a good player. I mean, his career kind of it didn't go by as the way that Croats usually go. Like everybody shines as a junior player, as an under 20 player, and then gets a massive opportunity to play somewhere. Nah, Ivan was basically just going around places, and the first time that he kind of went to the next level was at Avellino in Italy. Then he got a chance to play in Turkey. He was amazing for Besiktas, and I'm glad to see him playing well for Ritas. But if I'm picking a post player for the MVP kind of talks, it's got to be Henry Sims from Treviso, because his numbers are completely off the chart. Like, he missed like 8 shots all season long, and he had a 31-point performance against Ajax. So if Treviso keep on winning, then Sims is going to be in serious consideration to be the MVP of the season.
All right. So, do you want to explain the rules? Because I feel like you're attacking me as usual with your depth of. I mean, you're a fountain of knowledge when it comes to the BCL, and I don't think I'm quite at your level. But you seem to want to call me out all the time on this one.
The way I do it, I mean, it's kind of like, I love trivia so much, man. I mean, I love pub quizzes. I love all that stuff, and this just feels like a good way to kind of share some of the stuff that I know about these teams. And we're gonna talk about Unicaja and Dijon. So basically, in a way, we're introducing a game while testing your knowledge about the teams. Ready?
I love trivia too. I'm just not very good at it. That's all. You know?
I've got eight questions for you. So
let's go.
It's true or false. JDA in JDA Dijon stands for Jeanne d'Arc. True or false?
Oh, I didn't study French history. True.
It's actually true. Yeah,
oh, thank God, true or false.
Second question. Unicaja Malaga have a lot of historic wins, and they even defeated OKC Thunder in 2007. True or false?
Ooh. I'm going to say, I didn't know about this game, but I'm going to say they did win it.
No, because they did defeat an NBA franchise. This just wasn't OKC Thunder. It was Memphis Grizzlies. It was one of the, I think it's like less than 20 wins that European teams have against NBA teams. And Unicaja, when they won it in 2007, it was another Croat doing his thing. It was Davor Kus. He played a massive game. He scored like 6 3-pointers, and it was a huge upset. And Pau Gasol and Juan Carlos Navarro were both playing for Memphis at the time. Dijon's Toni Katic made the longest shot of the season so far, beating the halftime buzzer from behind the half-court line against Nizhny Novgorod. True or false? Was it behind the half-court line?
False.
No, it was true. It was true. He was beyond the half-court line. Unicaja's coach, Fotis Katsikaris, was already in the BCL. He coached Tenerife in the 2017-18 season. True or false?
False. It's always been Vidoretta.
Nope.
What?
It was very true.
Dude, Vidoretta's been there the whole time.
Nah, he had a season off, and that was the 2017-18 season. Dijon's coach, Nenad Markovic, was also already in the BCL. He coached Tenerife in the 2017-18 season. True or false?
False.
It's actually true.
Wait, hold on. Wait, repeat the question again. You said Nenad Markovic was the coach of Tenerife in 2017-18.
Yeah, exactly. He took over after Chus left, and then once Nenad Markovic ended his reign in Tenerife, they hired Fotis Katsikaris. So you got two ex-Tenerife head coaches going head to head.
So I'm now one right, 4 wrong.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Unicaja won the Spanish league 5 times. True or false?
Unicaja won the ACB 5 times. Ooh. See, my good friend Joel Freeland used to play for them. I don't think he ever won the ACB with them. But then again, he only played a few seasons. Robert Archibald played. False.
That's actually quite a good logic that you had. It's false. They only won it once in 2006.
That's right.
Defeated Baskonia in the final. Let's go. Dijon reached the final of the French League for the first time ever in 2020. True or false?
Oh, goodness gracious. 2020 did I only watch Pro A sometimes.
This is a trick question, really. I'm gonna help you out.
False.
Give up, man. It's false because there was no final of French League in 2020. They suspended the season.
And I wouldn't have known that either.
But for real, they reached the final in 2021. So they're a good team.
I would have said false that one as well, so.
Finally, the last question. When Unicaja won the FIBA Courage Cup in 2001, one of the teams they defeated en route to the title was Dijon. True or false?
Holy moly. I was 11 years old then. You know what's crazy? 2 years prior to that, my dad was an assistant coach for a team in the Courage Cup. But okay. In 2001, did Unicaja beat JDA Dijon on the way to the championship? Since this is the game of the week, I'm going to go true.
True, that's the correct answer. They met in the round 16. Unicaja won, advanced, and then went on to win the whole thing. Good job. I mean, that was, by your standards, it was not a bad quiz. It was challenging. I think we have to talk a bit more about Unicaja and Dijon. So let's do it in the head-to-head.
Game of the week of the BCL, Unicaja Malaga, the new boys on the block. I mean, they're favorites this season. And we got the old boys, JDA Dijon. I'm going with JDA Dijon. You're going with Unicaja Malaga. I'm going to give you, let me get my timer out. Just bear me 1 second. You got 30 seconds that you got to tell me why JDA Dijon, you got 30 seconds to tell me why Unicaja Malaga is going to win the game of the week. You ready?
Yep.
Go.
It's quite simple because when you're playing against Unicaja in Malaga, when you see the arena, when you see the atmosphere over there, you kind of freeze for a little bit. And that's all they need to win a game. And at the same time, they're playing really good basketball. They're not just not winning. They had an unlucky defeat to Barcelona in the Spanish league. They were really good in the BCL, and they need this win in the BCL to get them back on track for the Spanish league. So I'm picking Unicaja and especially Jaime Fernandez all the time.
Just on 30 seconds, not bad. You make a good point. I mean, this is a David versus Goliath matchup, but I'm going to give you 30 seconds of exactly why JD Dijon are going to upset Unicaja Malaga.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
JDA Dijon are one of the experienced Pro A teams in the Basketball Champions League. The style they like to play is about athleticism, running up and down. They are going to give a lot of problems to the transition defense of Unicaja Malaga, not to mention the top scoring from Rashad Kelly. He's averaging just under 20 points per game, but not to mention David Holston. The guy is an absolute nightmare to defend. He will push it in transition as much as possible. You got Abdullah Loom. You got loads of players that will come off the bench and play hustle minutes. But for me, JD Dijon are going to play with heart. They're going to upset Unicaja Malaga.
30 seconds. Nice job. But as much as I love Dave Holston, I don't think anybody loves Dave Holston as much as I do. I'm still picking Jaime Fernandez and Unicaja to win it.
I'm just telling you right now, it's gonna be, you know, we talk about the ACB and just how spectacular it's one of the best leagues in Europe, but I think, you know what, Pro A deserves the same recognition. And in Pro A, it's about heart, desire, hustle, and it's going to be a very physical matchup. And, you know, this is why it's the game of the week, of course. But again, Igor, I got to say to you, man, thank you for coming on the BCL Trash Talk podcast. It's been a while since we've seen you. We know how busy you are. And obviously, we look forward to the game of the
Always
week.
a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
We'll see you next week, basketball fans. Right now, see you later. This is the BCL Trash Talk Podcast.